I'm going to turn this over right now, Roger, but just briefly, what do you make of CNN's latest venture into complete fairy tale fake news, defending a Nazi collaborator and saying that I made it up? What in the world is going on?
This is the epitome of fake news. You know, I used to like Anderson Cooper, but this is a bridge too far. Reminds me of a piece of legislation that Congressman Adam Schiff introduced last week, Alex, which declares that the federal government has never paid out a penny to anyone who was damaged by vaccines. Well, we know that that's false. They paid out almost $3.7 billion. It's the same kind of denial that you see here. It is widely established that that Soros was a Nazi collaborator. He is, as you can see, he exudes absolute stone-cold evil. And foreign intelligence services in numerous countries have documented his Nazi collaboration. So this is an attempt by CNN, not a news organization, to reinvent history, to bury the truth with the big lie. This is a classic of the big lie technique. And Alex, I'm a little jealous because they're blaming you.
Roger, I got a big show. Sorry I cut in. Please take over, stonecoldtruth.com.
No problem at all. This, I think, was, in fact, extremely newsworthy, Alex. I have never seen CNN go quite this far in their Orwellian attempts to deny reality. There is more and more reports from the Trump White House about discord between the president and his chief of staff, General John Kelly. Jack Posobiec, who often appears here at InfoWars, reported several days ago that Kelly had tendered his resignation some weeks ago. Now, I've seen this bureaucratic trick before. Under Richard Nixon, Henry Kissinger tendered his resignation roughly once every 10 days. Al Haig, later the White House chief of staff, picked up this same technique. They're not really quitting, you understand, and they don't want the president to take them up on their offer. It's an attempt to pressure the president. What I can report is that Kelly has done an effective job of bringing down a de facto iron curtain around our president, controlling all written and human communications that reach the president from the outside, with the exception of those communications that are engendered when the president picks up the phone or when he asks for a specific piece of information. Now, it seems to me that there was an important piece in Vanity Fair today by Gabriel Sherman, who, to my mind, is one of the better political reporters in Washington and the Washington, New York axis. And in this piece, Sherman correctly points out that the season, meaning winter, when the beautiful people, when high society goes to Palm Beach, is going to pose a specific challenge to General Kelly. You see, the president is an extraordinarily social animal. He, unlike Hillary Clinton, he actually likes people. He likes to mix with them. He likes to talk to them. He likes to get ideas from them. He likes to bounce his ideas off of them and see what they think. He's a gregarious extrovert in an extrovert's job. And when he goes to his stunning compound in Palm Beach, the Mar-a-Lago Club, well, on any given night, you can find him in the dining room, holding court, meeting with friends old and new, and really very much in his element. The problem with that, of course, is that it violates the new protocols set up by General Kelly. The idea of taking the president to this palatial private club where he has an embedded residence, kind of a luxury apartment, but separating him from his many friends and guests, well, that will be a very, very tall order. For example, the conservative publisher, Christopher Ruddy, a friend of InfoWars, a friend of mine, a member of the Mar-a-Lago Club, someone often seen at the president's elbow in the wintertime. I could name others. In fact, I wouldn't be shocked if Alex Jones and Roger Stone show up for dinner one night. So General Kelly's work is really cut out for him. The president is not like some child going to be kept in the dark and fed disinformation. That's not the Donald Trump that I know. Keep an eye on General Kelly. I don't know that he'll be there after February. You can only pull the I quit, I'm tendering my resignation act so many times. I think it is likely that the good general will overplay his hand. Since you're with us here on InfoWars, I'd really appreciate it personally if you'd go to the Infowars.com store, where they have an extraordinary special on Brain Force. I would have to say, of all the products available in the entire Infowars.com line, this is without any question my favorite. For me, it gives me mental clarity, mental organization, mental energy, as it were. Kind of helps you collect your thoughts and focus them. This is a terrific product. I can tell you firsthand that it works because I was writing last night till almost 3 a.m., got up this morning for early meetings, and here I am on InfoWars now and in the next hour. Speaking of the rest of our show, Congressman Matt Gaetz of Florida will join us to talk about Attorney General Jeff Sessions and why there has been no examination of the Clinton Foundation. I'm Roger Stone, and I'll be right back. Welcome back. I'm Roger Stone, and you're on the Alex Jones Show. Joining me now is one of the most impressive young, hard-charging conservatives in the U.S. Congress, Matt Gaetz of the 1st District of Florida. Matt Gaetz first came to my attention when he was a member of the Florida House. He is a take-no-prisoners conservative in the Reagan mold, someone whom great things are expected of, and he has emerged as a substantial critic of Attorney General Jeff Sessions, specifically in regard to the foibles of the Clinton Foundation and why there doesn't seem to be any current federal investigation of the violations of both law and IRS regulation going on there. Joining me now, Congressman Matt Gaetz. Matt, welcome to InfoWars.
It's good to be on with you, Roger. You know, it is so frustrating that after a rule of law election that we had to send Donald Trump to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, we still have not seen a thorough, robust investigation of the Clinton Foundation. And here's why that's important. We may have people around the world who purport to be acting on behalf of the United States government where there really wasn't an arm's length transaction. They just got a designation or a contract or some special treatment because they made some donation to the Clinton Foundation. And so let me set the stage for you and for our viewers regarding how this issue came to be in the House Judiciary Committee. Each and every week in the House Judiciary Committee, we've got Democrats lobbing these crazy resolutions about Roger Stone, Paul Manafort, Donald Trump, Jared Kushner. And frankly, I was sick and tired of hearing about it while the American people are expecting us to be delivering on our promises. And so I filed an amendment to strip every word of the Democrat resolution and to put into that legislation a demand from the House Judiciary Committee that we get to the bottom of what's going on with the Clinton Foundation. And, you know, is there a situation with Fusion GPS or that made this false dossier on President Trump that we need to know about? The Uranium One deal that you've covered to a great extent on InfoWars remains really something that hasn't been investigated. And so I've been joined by some of my colleagues in the Congress calling for a special counsel to be appointed by Jeff Sessions or his designee to take this matter up and really get to the bottom of whether or not the United States government was sold out by Hillary Clinton.
Matt, what kind of a response have you gotten both from your colleagues in the House and, of course, from the Justice Department?
Well, in the House, I've had a couple dozen people join me in sponsoring a resolution calling for this special counsel, but with 218 Republicans, we certainly, or with more than that, I'm sorry, with more than 240 Republicans, it's a shame that we don't have more than about 10% of the conference signing on to do this real investigation. As for Attorney General Sessions, I really wish that there was a stronger response. He has deferred all issues regarding Russia to Mr. Rosenstein, and I just don't get the sense that Rosenstein is really interested in taking up an investigation of Hillary Clinton. He seems to be more interested in looking into Donald Trump, and, you know, it would be really disappointing, Roger, if just by losing an election, Hillary Clinton got some sort of de facto immunity deal. That doesn't seem fair to me, and I don't think it seems fair to the American people.
It does seem like she has gotten a pass. Now, obviously, when you talk about the Clinton Foundation or the Clinton scandals, sure, there's a big piece of this that has to do with Russia. We now know that John Podesta and his brother were making millions of dollars from the clique around Putin, that Bill and Hillary were paid hundreds of thousands of dollars in speaking fees to give 15-minute speeches in Moscow. In Bill's case, that's a thinly disguised bribe, in my opinion. But there is so much more there, particularly the abuse in the wake of the Haitian earthquake, where literally millions of dollars have disappeared. It boggles the mind that no one at the Trump Justice Department seems to be at all interested in this regard. What are the next steps?
Roger. Yeah, Roger, I think that they're scared. I mean, the facts are there. We have evidence that suggests that the Clinton campaign was working in concert with Fusion GPS to proliferate false dossiers about President Trump both before and after his election in order to discredit him. That is the only evidence that there is with a Russia connection to this election that is out of the ordinary. I mean, of course, Russia throughout the world engages in efforts to try to manipulate the national discussion and the global discussion of human events and affairs. That's not anything new. What's new is that it looks like there was this Russian firm that may have been connected to the Clinton campaign. Now, you've asked about next steps. I think it's very disappointing that Attorney General Sessions has taken the position that his recusal on the Russia question means that he won't investigate the Clinton Foundation. You mentioned Haiti. There are a number of other circumstances where the Clinton Foundation was essentially a money laundering operation, where they would take donations in exchange for special access, special favors, and special treatment with the State Department. That goes well beyond Russia. So I believe it is entirely within the discretion of Attorney General Sessions to appoint a special counsel, but he has chosen to take a pass on that and to give all the authority to Rosenstein, who no one elected and who, you know, was not someone that certainly I think the president has tremendous confidence in. And so I'm looking forward to a circumstance where we get that special counsel appointed. That really is the next step. We need a special counsel pursuing Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation, because otherwise we send the message to the American people that if someone loses an election, whatever their crimes are, whatever violations of the law they were involved in, they're immediately forgiven upon losing an election. And that is not the type of sense that the American people have. We elected Donald Trump because we want to see the rule of law enforced. You know, I see on the screen now our viewers are able to see this connection to Loretta Lynch. That's another issue that we think deserves an investigation. Why did Loretta Lynch tell James Comey to go and lie to the American people and call the Clinton investigation a matter instead of an investigation? You remember that, Roger? I mean, that was the Attorney General of the United States telling the FBI director to go and lie to the American people. And the fact that as a Judiciary Committee, as a Congress, we have not investigated that, that really gives me a great sense of discomfort.
The Democrats have always been much better than the Republicans when it came to weaponizing the legal system and the judicial system. While we're at it, that special prosecutor you refer to can look into these FISA court declarations that indicate that 30,000 Americans were illegally and unconstitutionally surveilled by the Obama NSA. Yet no one has brought an action against Ms. Rice, Mr. Brennan, Admiral Rogers, and Mr. Clapper, a proven perjurer who lied to the Congress about the fact that he said we had no metadata collection program. This is extraordinarily important stuff, but the Democrats seem to be getting a pass. Matt, if you'll stick with us, I'd like to bring you back in the next segment because there's a couple other issues in the Congress I want to pick your brain about. You're at InfoWars. I'm Roger Stone, sitting in for Alex Jones. And if you like our programming, if you like the way that we are carrying the flag for freedom, well, then I ask you to go to the Infowars.com site now and look at our terrific product line, 40% off Survival Shield. That's an extraordinary price, 50% off my favorite Brain Force. You see, we don't have a George Soros sitting in the wings writing us big checks. We can only depend on you. I will be right back. Some vintage Rolling Stones there, a tune written by Chuck Berry, and of course my good friend Senator Bernie Sanders. Congressman Matt Gaetz was called to the House floor for a vote, so we're going to give him a pass, but he's promised to come back and talk to us about the amendment that he's working on that would have the effect of prohibiting the federal government from using DOJ funds for a crackdown on marijuana in the 29 states that have legalized it under state law. Matt Gaetz has been a real crusader on this issue, and he'll be back on InfoWars soon to give us an update on that important issue. Also in the news, for those of you who may not have seen it, was an extraordinary 60 Minutes interview with a gentleman named Brad Pascale. Mr. Pascal was the digital advertising director for the Donald Trump for President campaign. And I think Mr. Pascal's interview comes at a very timely occasion. It is now that we're just starting to get a focus on the digital advertising campaign that was conducted allegedly by the Russians, and whether it was effective, how much they spent, and whether it really moved any votes. Given the fact that the amounts of money spent appear to be in the hundreds of thousands, and that the number of people who voted in this election were in the millions, it's doubtful, in my opinion, that the Russians did much in terms of actually moving votes for or against Donald Trump. Also, if you have seen the actual copy, the text of their ads, well, they looked like they were written by someone who has Russian as a first language. I was having a hard time trying to figure out exactly what it was they were trying to say. Mr. Pascal, starting with a Forbes magazine profile, which was really a profile on the president's son-in-law immediately after the election, has claimed an inordinate amount of credit for the election of Donald Trump through his alleged digital campaign efforts. There is, I think, an inadvertent downside to Mr. Pascal's appearance on 60 Minutes. You see, he was paid $94 million by the Trump campaign. It is my understanding from sources that I learned about this morning that members of the House and Senate Intelligence Committee are going to be asking Mr. Pascal to document where the $94 million went. I can tell you firsthand that the New York Times tried to determine this some many months ago and were unable to do so from public records and logs. Perhaps Mr. Pascal can show us what he did with $94 million. We'll keep you updated on this story as it develops. Steve Bannon, now also in the wake of the extraordinary victory in Alabama by Judge Roy Moore, which many read as a rejection of Senator Mitch McConnell and the Republican leadership in the Senate, Mr. Bannon has now gone on a jihad against the rhino wing of the Republican Party. Let me be clear. It's a jihad that I enthusiastically 100% support. I always thought that Steve Bannon, who really is a good guy, would be more effective as a rabble-rouser and an outsider than he was trying to fit into the button-down culture of the White House. And indeed, Bannon has made great waves since leaving the White House, toppling Senator McConnell's choice in Alabama, and now targeting a group of rhino Republicans who have been backstabbing the president. Now, I know the mainstream media narrative tells you that Robert Corker of Tennessee left the Senate in some fit of conscience, that he has been attacking the president, thus being deified by the mainstream media. But if you're following us here at InfoWars, you know that the truth is far different. You see, Senator Corker got out of Dodge just ahead of the posse. The FBI and the SEC have been examining a series of trades and other business dealings to determine whether Senator Corker was taking information that he learned on a proprietary basis as a member of the U.S. Senate and then using that to invest or make trades in hedge funds or other public companies. This, of course, would be highly illegal. Among the focus of the investigation is a particular company where Senator Mark Warner and Senator Bob Corker came together to put together the money to short housing stocks, garnering tens of millions of dollars of profit. I assure you, federal investigators will continue to be looking at that. In any event, Mr. Bannon has his work cut out for him. Not all of these Republican primaries will be as straightforward as Alabama. Now, recognize that Alabama has a two-tiered process, that there were 4 candidates in the first election. The 2 top vote getters then ran off in the Republican Party. Watch for the Democrats to make a major play to win in Alabama. The argument will be that Judge Roy Moore is too far to the right, too far out of the Republican mainstream. Unfortunately, the Democratic candidate, Jim Douglas, by going to his website, seems to have embraced abortion as his signature issue. I'll be very clear, Doug Jones, pardon me, I correct myself. Mr. Jones is going to find that that dog in Alabama will not, in my opinion, hunt. In order to pull off an upset victory, well, Doug Jones would have to run as if he were Senator Manchin from West Virginia. He would have to run to the right of the base of his entire party. And so far, he is not doing that. If you want my prediction, I think Roy Moore is headed for the U.S. Senate, and I think Steve Bannon is headed for more upset victories around the country. As far, for example, as Senator Jeff Flake of Arizona, well, I think you can kiss Senator Flake goodbye. It's really a shame that President Trump was talked into endorsing John McCain in 2016 when McCain was pressed in a Republican primary. He too could have been beaten. And what has the president gotten for his warm endorsement of the good senator from Arizona? Treachery, backstabbing, skullduggery, and an alignment with the most liberal of Democrats on the most important issues of the day, principally, of course, the health care issue. John McCain needs to come before the Senate and answer questions about why he was meeting with Oleg Deripaska, a Russian oligarch who's known as a money man for, yes, Vladimir Putin. In fact, John McCain met with Mr. Deripaska despite warnings from our intelligence services that Deripaska was most likely a Kremlin agent and such a meeting could be questionable. So the mainstream media was absolutely right. There was a Republican candidate in bed with Putin. There was a Republican candidate for president playing footsies with the Russians, but that candidate was John McCain. I'm Roger Stone, and I'll be right back.